Good afternoon, YouTube. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about vetting your information sources. So basically, what are my thoughts on what you should be thinking about when it comes to who you listen to for fitness information? So as a personal trainer, I truly believe that the function of a personal trainer should be just so that you don't need me anymore. To be that you can look through the information that is presented to you, think critically about it without being overly educated or whatnot, and make sound, solid decisions so that you're not manipulated, so that you can be able to reach your own goals without buying into the bullshit that is prevalent within fitness. Because the fitness industry managed to become a multi-billion-dollar industry because many people want to be fit, but no one really wants to understand the truth that it's very simple, that it's more likely hard work and consistency more than anything else that you can possibly buy. And there is no coach, trainer, or anyone out there who can really sell you anything new. Like there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to YouTube fitness. And the function of a personal trainer is just to get you proficient enough to train yourself. That should be the goal of a personal trainer, so far as, like, let's say the just general population. But if you are, like, let's say a competitive athlete, then having a coach to get you from one point to another, which is basically winning a competition, that should be the goal. But when it comes to YouTube fitness, when it comes to the internet, one thing that I really am trying to do and work on is I am trying to create a book or write a book where I have information and content on what I think proper power building, strength training, bodybuilding is like for the common lifter or the average lifter, the non-competitive lifter, and then also have information in the book um, that talks about how to just not be manipulated by the bullshit. What you really need to know, things that you should kind of keep in mind anytime someone tells you something different, to kind of keep these things in mind. So part of that is just kind of being able to identify the charlatans and the bullshitters and the wicked, evil people who are just trying to take your money and don't really care about truth and what is going to be best for you. And that can come from anywhere. That can come from me, even. Like, if my bills end up becoming very, very large, there might be some concessions I make on my character to cash in. But I'm gonna try my hardest to not let that be the case, because what good is it to gain the world if you lose your soul? Am I right? So, the first thing you want to think about when vetting your information sources is compare what they achieved and compare it to how they say they achieved it. So if you were listening to someone and they say, and, like, let's say they look like a complete absolute unit, they're totally built different, they look like a Greek god, they look like they could have won some bodybuilding competitions in the 70s and 80s, because they still look very aesthetic, but they're not like the mass monsters of today. And they tell you, I did this by drinking semen. Stay the hell away from them. Their body is not worth it. Their body was not built that way. There was other things that they did that they're not telling you, and what they're trying to tell you is basically what you need to tell them, and that's suck my dick. I'm not listening to your information. So if they say something, sorry, my allergies are acting up, so my nose is itchy. But if they say something that just does not make any kind of relevant, logical sense as to how they got to where they're at, you don't listen to them. So there's a lot of people who just hop on PEDs. They're typically very young, who don't know shit about training, but because they look good and can essentially carry themselves on their charisma and their ability to speak, it makes them sound more intelligent than they really are. But if you take some time to actually listen to what they're saying, they're fucking dumb. So they look good, they're very strong, but they're just like, oh yeah, I drink a gallon of milk a day. I don't know, like, I don't eat spinach. I don't know, like, just if there's any type of, like, just hard commandments, rules, or just really outside of the ordinary kind of things, be very cautious of them. And yeah, so if they got a great physique, they have great strength accomplishments, but the way they got to it does not make logical sense, then chances are it's something that you should stay away from. And another thing that you want to be thinking about is if they use PEDs and they don't disclose it. So it is now becoming more common for people to be open and honest about PED usage, but at the same time, it is also becoming increasingly common for young lifters to get into it. It's becoming increasingly common for there to be a lot of fake naturals who are trying to just make money by being a fake natural, and goddamn, that sucks. for not just for them, but because I do pity them in some sense, but for us because we're just trying to get better. And you know, these channels blow up, these channels or sources of information get very, very large, very, very popular, but the actual information does nothing to benefit you, and that is sad in my opinion. But let's move on to the next point. Do other professionals agree with what they say? So how does what they say compare to what other people say? So one thing you might want to do, because like if you're anything like me, and I kind of like see this with anyone else who really gets into the fitness YouTube space or fitness information kind of space, internet, whatever, they will watch content from a wide variety of channels. They're not just going to watch it from one channel. They're going to go to many channels, watch their content, and really, what is it? They're going to binge on this, and they're going to expose themselves to a lot of new ideas, and they need to be very aware of any time that their favorite ones contradict with one another. So sometimes it's not so much that they contradict one another, but it's just that their ways of training just don't complement one another. So for example, I when I started lifting, a lot of my information came from, let's see, I mean, there was a time where I was influenced by Athlete X, because everyone was, because he was the biggest channel at the time. And then on forums and a lot of other places, I started seeing kind of like cracks in the armor, and I was just like, oh, he's not as honest, transparent, or his information doesn't have as much value as I thought. Like I felt, because I was like, you know, like 15 years, 16 years old, I was like, oh, but he's the biggest channel, I should follow him. He has a great physique. No, but that's not enough. He might have all these credentials, but if you actually look at his content and a lot of his weird stuff where he's like having dumbbells and like pretending to run on one leg, like, you know, that kind of makes it difficult to trust the guy's information on other topics. But beyond that, if you have, like, let's say, because like going back to the example, I also listen to like Alpha Destiny, Brian Alsru, Alan Thrall, Omar Isuf, and they all train very differently. So because of that, their information goes in a bunch of different ways. So when you are listening to all these different ideas, all these different points of view, especially because they have different training philosophies, you really need to kind of think to yourself, okay, are there more similarities than there are differences? Or is there a general consensus or a general principle that they all agree on that can provide a basis for me to move forward in my training or lifting career, essentially? Because if, for example, like, so Brian Alsru, Alan Thrall, like, these are strongmen, these are more powerlifter, more strength focused lifters. So isolation exercises from pre-old content was not really all that much present because it's not all that much relevant to what they're trying to pursue. Whereas if you look at Omar Isuf, who was someone who I was looking, who I relied on a lot of like bodybuilding type information, because he always had Alberto Nunez or Eric Helms or 3DMJ just on the channel. What you'll find is that generally speaking, they both like have very different opinions or had different content at the time regarding isolation exercises. But when it came to the question of isolation exercises, even though they didn't use it, and Brian Alsru was actually very much against the like curling, because I think he says that he hasn't done a curl since high school. What they will say is that if you want to throw it in there, you can. You don't need a lot of it, but you can throw it in there and it will give you some results. Whereas for more bodybuilding style, more bodybuilder focused lifters, they'll say, yes, you need isolations to fully develop the muscle to get the most gains out of it. Why not isolate it? But they will also say throwing hundreds of different variations at it is not going to be super beneficial. So when you have two different camps, two different people in the same iron game, and they all agree that while they don't personally do isolation, they know that it can be useful, and they recommend only doing like some amount, not letting it take over your entire training. And then those who are more bodybuilder focused say, don't just throw every single exercise at the muscle or exercise variation at the muscle. You can kind of get this general consensus of, oh, I want to include isolation, but that doesn't mean I need to do 100 different variations. So when the person comes along and says, if you really want to grow your arms, you need to do 100 different variations of curls, you can say, nah, you're stupid. I can move on. So that's one thing. How does what they compare how does what they say compare to what other people say? The next thing is, what do their peers think of him? Who do they associate and collab with? Who criticizes and supports them? So YouTube fitness is a very interesting place because my allergies are like killing me. Sorry. But YouTube fitness is a very interesting space because there was a wide variety of different dramas that occurred over the years. I mentioned Athlete X, and the first time that I was exposed to, like I said, cracks in the armor was on online forums like Reddit. When I started knowing what Reddit was, like, and other online forum sites like on bodybuilding.com and whatnot, I would start to see like what people's critiques were about it, and I would start to see it as I continued to watch the videos, and then eventually decided I'm going to unsubscribe for quite a while. Um, and then if we look at, let's say, new channels nowadays. So I don't know if he has a channel because, like, honestly, he is just, I just don't want anything, like, I just don't like seeing his content because honestly his face kind of just pisses me off. But Tristan Lee, so I'm gonna look that up real quick. Sorry, my monitor's like all the way up there. All right, Tristan Lee, just how do I spell his name? I don't know. Tristan Lee. All right, he has 1.18 million followers, and he was like, I don't know, like the kid who was like just fucking ripped and whatever. And
what's making you come in?
Oh god, and then I don't know, I don't know. I don't really watch any of his content, but like the people around him, other fake naturals, Bradley Martin of all people, and like Bradley Martin, like I remember him being somewhat entertaining, but kind of like fell off in relevancy. So now he became this meme of someone who gives young lifters PEDs to get really good gains just to maintain his relevancy. And I'm not saying this kid doesn't work hard or whatnot, but I mean, he's claiming natural for one, and that's just kind of horrible because it kind of sets up this weird expectation for younger lifters. And even if he is genetically blessed, it's just it just further perpetuates the dishonesty that is present in YouTube fitness, in fitness in general, and that makes it harder for fitness to be something that people perceive to be something real, tangible, and able to achieve for themselves. And then, so that's kind of a little mini rant, I guess. But anyway, back to the original point, which is who criticizes them and who supports them. So with that whole Athlete X controversy regarding fake weights, regarding PED usage, like he got called out by Greg Doucette, he got called out by Alec Onkiri, and lots of people jumped to Athlete X's defense and presented some very questionable arguments in favor of him, and kind of like were essentially nut huggers. And it was kind of strange to see, and I had to kind of like take some time to actually like fully process through the arguments that were being presented. But there's that. If someone you follow is being, let's say, put through a critical lens, it is your duty to do the same. You should be doing this with anyone. If you like them, if you dislike them, you need to have the ability to think for yourself and do some research and look from other points of view, other perspectives, and see the validity in them. So that way, when you can actually think about the critique or thinking just critically, if your thoughts have value, if their thoughts have value, and whatnot. So that's the second part of like, do other professionals agree with what they say? So you need to think about who's the outlier with this one. Like, are they presenting information that is generally part of the general consensus? It's fine to do something that is experimental, like look at the knees over toes guy. I don't think there's a lot of studies with a lot of things that he does, but he's the living proof of what he says, and he does have a lot of years of research and training, mentoring, and behind him, which gives him the conviction to speak about what he does and what he believes in with so much passion. And from what I think other people have experienced regarding his content and training is generally positive results. So even if the science has not really caught up with a lot of things he said, the fact that so many people are seeing value in what he's doing, it kind of provides some level of not authority but credibility. I swear to God, I really hate allergies. I'm sorry I keep complaining about it. So that brings me to my final, but this brings me to my final point. Who is their fan base? This is actually something that has actually kept me pretty, I guess, safe. I was able to dodge a lot of bullshit. I was able to dodge a lot of charlatans and whatnot just because I was very critical of who other people chose to follow. So, for example, when Greg Doucette first started popping up, I was very hesitant to follow him simply because he started blowing up because of the Stephanie Buttermore um, situation, and then also the debate with Mike Israetel. And I don't think that debate was handled very well on Mike's side, but you know, it happened. And then also there's just a lot of stuff regarding Greg Doucette's content and training practices that I generally just did not fully agree with. But I started looking into his other content where he's not screaming and found that he has some pretty good content. The issue is he was consistently rewarded for being this screamy character, and while it was important that he calls out, you know, fake naturals or bullshit advice, you know, that whole spews for views type thing, and while there is still an element of that part of him still there. Generally speaking, most of his channel has kind of like degenerated into this cult like following of someone who just screams, yells, and parrots, and kind of has content that I don't think is as informative or as useful as I think as it used to be or could be. And people like him for that. So that kind of like was something that turned me off. So one thing that a friend of mine like just reminded me last night was this old like quote. I forgot who said it, but Jesus, Lord, like Lord Jesus, please protect me from your followers. And I kind of apply that with a lot of other things because let's if someone tells me like, oh, like I'll ask them like, who are your influences when it comes to fitness, and they'll say something like, oh, Bradley Martin, or um I don't know who, like, because like I don't really care about these guys because I'm just like they don't seem to, because like if for me, if they don't seem to actually genuinely care or um want to provide honest information, I don't like them. And the people who follow them only served further proof of as to why I shouldn't engage with that kind of content. For example, if you like Tristan Lee, I don't understand why you would, because like it's very clear that he's not natural. Multiple times he's been called out for it, multiple times that he's lied about it, and why would you engage with that content and like it even more? And then like let's say there's some, I think there's some other channels out there who like they appeal to the DYELs, the DLs, who do you even lifters, do you even lift people, and you were just like actually, and like they try to be very like super book smart, and but they never actually go to the gym and are always suffering from paralysis by analysis. And for me, I'm just like, that kind of just tells me the information you're getting has no coherent story behind it, where the answer, while fitness information in general is always going to be nuanced, it's always going to be nuanced. The answer really is, it depends. They never provide you the context into what ways it does depend on some certain things. So the information that I provide on this channel is like, while the fitness answer is it depends, the power building answer is, well, this is the issue you're going to run into. So this is the issue you're going to run into. So here's how you mitigate that. And if you mitigate that, this is the cost you're going to pay. That is a relevant answer, but it's only relevant because you're now given more context. But if you're just always relying on these channels that never provide that context, never provide that full picture, and always just say, well, it depends, but never really tells you why, you're going to fall into that trap of looking the same year in year out, because you're always going to think to yourself, well, everything works, so what I'm doing is going to work eventually. And all I gotta say is good luck with that, man. Like, good luck with that. So the final part with this is, how does the fan base act when the person they are following gets critiqued? If they act like a cult, chances are, I mean, think about this. How many cult leaders do you know actually make sense? Not many. How many cult leaders do you know actually try to provide truthful, honest information? Not many. So if their fan base is cult like, it's worthwhile to kind of be cautious about the actual information the cult leader provides. So, um, that's it for this video. Kind of lasted a bit longer than I thought it would, but because I only have 3 bullet points or 3 points on my notes on my screen. But this is something that I think is very important. Like, this is something that I think I need to kind of also like hold myself against too. So I try my best to be as well educated as I can be, so that way, and if I am wrong, I'm going to, you know, take every point as to why I'm wrong, and kind of think through it and actually see the errors of my logic or whatnot. And all at the same time, if I truly believe what I'm saying to be is correct, then I'm going to stand by my guns and go from there. I'm always going to try to be, so I'm not going to try to not be an outlier, but at the same time, I'm not going to just be this stale imitation of what's already available. I'm going to make sure I associate with different ideas and explore with them, but at the same time, I'm going to try not to just forsake everything that we know to already work. And also, I mean, I don't have so much of a following now, but I do appreciate the following I have, so thank you so much. I am going to try my best to make sure that the content on this channel is going to stay relevant for the people who have the attention span for something like this. I'm not very much into editing, and I know, like, I think it's kind of crazy that editing and all these things are things that actually help promote you in the algorithm. So, I mean, that's cool, but I don't know how to edit. I'm too, for a variety of reasons, I don't want to. And yeah, I'm rambling now. So I'm going to end the video there. My name is King, StansRing.com. I hope you liked the video up until this last couple minutes. But if you did like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.